Alright, really, let's be honest with ourselves. Of anyone in the movie Titanic, best supporting actor goes to that guy who hit the propeller on the way down. Talk about stealing the show? That guy. Titanic in 3D. Alright, so it has been years since I've seen Titanic. Last time I saw Titanic, I hated Titanic because I wanted to hate Titanic because I was a really greasy-haired, zitty-faced nerd, and every girl in the world wanted to use DiCaprio's face as a bicycle seat. I just didn't like that. I was like, what? What's wrong with my little greasy, zitty face? It makes a fine bicycle seat. I mean, look at this nose. You think about the possibilities. But now I have once again seen James Cameron's Titanic. Alright, so the movie Titanic is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a movie about the ship Titanic, which sinks. And on this ship are a few fictional characters, one of which is Rose, played by Kate Winslet. And she's engaged to Billy Zane, more on that guy later, and she hates her life, you know, because she's just surrounded by a bunch of really pretentious rich people who are all like, oh, the over-under stock exchange, yes. In which she then meets Jack, played by young Leonardo DiCaprio, who's this fun, free spirit kind of guy. He's really poor. He's third class on Titanic. They call them steerage. It just sounds really spit on, doesn't it? And through situational circumstance, the two team up and they start building a romance. And for the first hour and a half of this movie, it is straight up romance. And in that aspect of the movie, the formula's pretty basic. You got your one chick engaged to this one guy. She doesn't like her life. She doesn't like him. Then you have the other guy who's the really fun guy who's gonna teach her everything that she's been missing about the world, but they're from two completely separate worlds. If you feel like you've seen it before, you have. So have I, but it works. And Cameron does a good job at getting you on their side. You know, you're like, I like your guys' romance. I feel like you're building something. She didn't annoy the shit out of me. She was actually a pretty fun chick. She's just confined by all the douchebags. All the old rich people on the Titanic who control her life, who were part of the Academy then and are probably still part of the Academy like today. Yeah, those people. Let's talk about her fiance, played by Billy Zane in this movie, because oh my god. Billy Zane in Titanic is pretty much one of the biggest dicks of 90s movies. Seriously, the dude totally kills it in this movie. He's a complete asshole. He was like a complete douchebag asshole before the ship was sinking. After the ship sinking, everyone's like, all right, every man for himself. It's all about numero uno, me. He was ahead of the curve, man. He was always like that in this movie. Like the ship, the Titanic is sinking. There are not enough lifeboats for everybody. Best case scenario, half the people on the ship are gonna die. Billy Zane's just like, not the better half. I was like, wow, you did. You went there. You totally... Wow. People like that exist. That's why I'm just like floored by that kind of stuff. And among this love story element, some of the dialogue is cheesy. There's no denying that. You know, I'm not even talking about the whole like, I'm the king of the world thing. I'm talking about when she's like, I'm flying. Some of DiCaprio's reaction shots where he's like, whoo! It's a little odd, a little corny. I'm telling you guys, it's the guy who hits the propeller on the way down, brings it all home. But then the movie completely changes the moment you hear the phrase, iceberg right ahead. We're now in survival mode. The ship hits the iceberg. Spoilers for anyone who never went to elementary school and doesn't know that. And now the ship is gradually going to sink and chaos is going to ensue. I love this. This is humanity at its finest, and by finest, I mean lowest low. Because when you have a bunch of people on a ship, at first it's like, all right, orderly fashion, get into the boats. Everyone gets into the lifeboats and all seems like it might be fine with the world. Then everyone starts figuring out that, wait a minute, I don't think I'm gonna live through this. I'm probably gonna die. In which case, survival of the fittest doesn't quite cover it. People douche out, they douche out hard. It doesn't even make sense. You got some people like cutting ropes to life rafts. I don't even know what that's gonna accomplish, but it made sense to them because they're like, well, it's either this or we die. This is probably gonna help me die, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You're going down into the icy waters of the Atlantic. Things that you do are probably not gonna make sense. You got people jumping from the ship, which is really funny because they're like, oh, the ship's sinking. I don't want the ship to sink. I don't want to have to go into the water because that's what will happen if I go down with the ship. So I'm just gonna jump into the water. I'll end up exactly where the ship's gonna take me, but that makes sense to me right now. So let's jump. I just love the slow swell of chaos at this point. Everything is just so extreme. It really looks like this enormous Titanic ship is actually sinking into the ocean. And it gets faster and faster, and the emotional level of everybody, it starts rising. People start doing stuff, man. They start throwing people off. They start shooting people. They start shooting themselves. It's a riot on a ship. Yeah, it would happen just like that. And I have no doubt the actual event was probably a lot like that. When people are faced with their inevitable death, they don't stay still. I mean, really, whatever you know about yourself, if you're on a ship that's gonna sink and you are probably gonna die because of it, I mean, what would you do? I'm sure the answer is gonna be different for everybody, but I can guarantee you this, the answer will not be, I would sit calmly in an orderly fashion and wait for the authorities. That shit would last like 15 minutes. Some of the special effects effects did look a bit dated at this point, but I actually give James Cameron the balls for not correcting everything. I mean, it'd be really easy to Lucas out on this. It is the same movie now that it was in 97 when it came out, except for the converted 3D. I mean, did the movie have to be converted into 3D? I don't think so. But the converted 3D in Titanic is not only better than any converted 3D movie I've ever seen, but it's better than a lot of other movies that are shot by Joe Blow director filming in 3D who doesn't know how to. Which goes to show you, if you know how to use 3D, then use 3D. If you don't do anything with 3D. Don't film it, don't convert it, just make a movie. Did I cry in Titanic? You betcha. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. In the movie Titanic, a diamond that's about as big as my fist ends up at the bottom of the Atlantic. Oh, what a waste of money. Cried like a baby at that little fact. So is it a puppy love romance? Yes, it absolutely is. Is the movie a hardcore survival movie about what people do when they're faced with their inevitable death amongst a catastrophe? You betcha. And does a guy fall from the Titanic and smack a propeller and spin as he hits the ocean? Yes. And does it do all of these well? Yes, it does. If for nothing else, I can say I'm actually excited that Titanic was re-released because I'm thinking soon it's going to be released on Blu-ray. Because I myself would buy Titanic on Blu-ray. Love story or the absurd rising fire of chaos. Whatever you like about it, you'll like something in Titanic. So your favorite James Cameron movie out there of all of them, what is it? Comment below, let me know. Some of you assholes are going to say Piranha 2, aren't you? I know you are. I said it for you. So now if you say it, it's not original. But you can still say it if you want to. Only it'll be a little disappointing. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.